What happens when a man known for breaking bones on screen walks into a studio built for breaking narratives and refuses to play along? What happens when Jason Statham, the quiet storm of action cinema, locks eyes with Whoopi Goldberg under the unforgiving lights of The View, and the room suddenly feels too small for both of them? Before we dive in, subscribe to The Truth Narrator right now, hit that like button, and drop a comment as this story unfolds, because moments like this don't happen often, and you won't want to miss what comes next. The applause rolls in waves as the cameras glide across the studio. The audience is smiling, buzzing, ready for the usual rhythm, banter, laughter, a few jabs wrapped in humor. Jason Statham steps out, tailored jacket, controlled posture, that familiar granite calm. He nods politely, a half smile that never quite reaches his eyes. He's done this 1,000 times. Talk shows, red carpets, questions that skim the surface. But today, something is different. You can feel it before anyone speaks. The air hums. Whoopi Goldberg sits at the table, arms relaxed, eyes sharp. She's seen everything. Politicians melt. Celebrities unravel. She doesn't flinch. As Jason takes his seat, their eyes meet, just a beat too long. Not hostile. Not friendly. Assessing. Measuring. Sunny Hostin starts with the warm-up, a soft pitch about Jason's latest film, the physical training, the discipline. Jason answers calmly, voice low, measured, British vowels crisp. The audience chuckles when he deadpans a joke. Whoopi watches him, chin tilted, listening, not just to the words, but to what he isn't saying. Then she leans in. So, Whoopi says, casual but cutting through the room like a blade, you've built a career on tough guys. Men who solve problems with fists. Do you ever worry about the message that sends? A ripple moves through the audience. Jason's smile tightens. He doesn't answer immediately. He inhales slow, controlled. I think, he says, choosing each word, people know the difference between stories and instructions. Whoopi raises an eyebrow. Do they? She asks. Because a lot of people watching don't see nuance. They see glorification. Jason shifts in his chair. Not defensive. Focused. With respect, he replies, I think you're underestimating the audience. There it is. A spark. Whoopi's lips curve into a knowing smile, but her eyes sharpen. Or maybe, she says, you're overestimating the responsibility of Hollywood. The room quiets. Even the cameras seem to slow. Jason glances briefly at the audience, then back at Whoopi. His jaw sets. I grew up watching films that inspired me, he says. Not to hurt people, but to be disciplined, to stand for something, to protect. Protect who? Whoopi asks, voice firm now. Jason doesn't miss a beat. The vulnerable. The people without a voice. Sunny shifts uncomfortably. Joy Behar opens her mouth, then closes it. This isn't the usual back and forth. This is something else. Whoopi leans back slightly, folding her hands. That's interesting, she says. Because a lot of critics argue those films reinforce aggression, especially in men who already feel entitled to power. Jason exhales through his nose. A faint smile flickers, gone as fast as it appears. And a lot of critics, he says quietly, have never stepped into a gym, never learned restraint through discipline, never understood that control is the opposite of chaos. A murmur runs through the audience. Some nod. Some gasp. Whoopi tilts her head, studying him. So now we're talking about critics? She asks. No, Jason replies, leaning forward for the first time. We're talking about assumptions. The tension thickens. You can feel producers behind the cameras shifting, wondering if they should cut to commercial. Whoopi doesn't blink. Assumptions are based on patterns, she says. And Hollywood has a pattern. Jason's eyes don't leave hers. So does talk television, he says. Provocation sells. A collective inhale. The audience reacts, some applause, some sharp intakes of breath. Sunny's eyes widen. Joy lets out a nervous laugh that dies instantly. Whoopi smiles, but it's not amused. Are you saying this show provokes you? I'm saying, Jason replies evenly, that sometimes the question is framed to get a reaction, not an answer. Silence. Thick. Heavy. Whoopi leans forward now, mirroring him. And sometimes, she says, the reaction tells us more than the answer ever could. For a moment, neither of them speaks. Two veterans. Two worlds colliding. Hollywood spectacle and cultural scrutiny. Jason's hands rest flat on the table. Steady. Controlled. You invited me here, he says softly. I came to talk about my work, not to be painted as a problem. Whoopi nods slowly. And I'm asking you, she responds, to consider the impact of that work beyond the box office. The audience is fully locked in now. No phones, no whispers, just eyes darting between them like a tennis match played with words. Jason leans back, finally breaking eye contact. I do consider it, he says. Every day. But I won't apologize for telling stories people choose to watch. A beat. Whoopi exhales, sits back, and for a split second, the edge softens. Fair enough, she says. But conversations like this matter. Jason nods once. Respectful. Guarded. The host attempts to pivot, but the room hasn't released the tension yet. It lingers, buzzing alive. As the cameras keep rolling, one thing is clear. This wasn't just an interview. It was a challenge. And it's only just begun. The moment the conversation tries to move on, it becomes obvious that it won't. The tension doesn't dissolve just because another host clears her throat or a producer flashes a cue card. It hangs there, heavy, almost visible, like heat rising off asphalt. Jason Statham sits back in his chair, but his posture is alert now, coiled. Whoopi Goldberg adjusts her glasses, a subtle signal she's not finished, not by a long shot. Sonny attempts a pivot, asking about stunt work, injuries, the physical toll of action films. Jason answers, but his words feel like placeholders, his mind still locked in the exchange that just unfolded. The audience senses it too. Their applause is polite, restrained, like they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then Whoopi interjects again. You know, she says, voice measured but unmistakably firm, what fascinates me is how often actors say, it's just a movie, when culture tells us it's never just that. Jason turns toward her slowly. The calm mask is still there, but cracks are beginning to show. Not rage, not arrogance, but something closer to frustration. Controlled, simmering. And what fascinates me, he replies, is how often people talk about culture as if it's fragile. As if one film, one character, is enough to break it. A few claps ripple through the audience before quickly dying down. Whoopi holds up a hand, not to silence them, but to claim the moment. Culture is fragile, she says. Especially when violence is packaged as virtue. Jason's brow furrows. Violence isn't the virtue, he counters. Intent is. Context is. Joy Behar leans in now, sensing the electricity. But Jason, she says lightly, trying to soften the edge, your characters don't usually talk things out over tea. A faint smile appears on Jason's face, brief, almost ironic. No, he says, they don't. Because they exist in heightened worlds. Just like sitcoms exaggerate life. Just like talk shows exaggerate conflict. The words land. A few audience members gasp. Sonny's pen pauses mid-note. Whoopi's smile fades, replaced by something sterner. So now we're equating this table with explosions and gunfire? Jason doesn't look away. I'm saying every medium dramatizes reality. Yours included. The room reacts instantly, murmurs, scattered applause, a few uncomfortable laughs. This isn't playful anymore. This is a line being drawn. Whoopi folds her arms. There's a difference between dramatizing and normalizing, she says. And there's a difference, Jason replies, between questioning and accusing. That word, accusing, changes everything. The temperature in the studio spikes. Even the camera operators seem to lean in closer. Are you feeling accused? Whoopi asks. Jason pauses. For the first time, he looks away, not to retreat, but to think. When he looks back, his voice is lower, steadier, edged with something personal. I'm feeling boxed in, he says. Like there's a script you expect me to follow. Apologize for success. Distance myself from the very audience that made my career possible. A hush falls over the room. Whoopi studies him, eyes searching. No one asked you to apologize for success. But you are asking me to apologize for who my stories resonate with, Jason responds. Sonny shifts in her seat. I think the concern, she says carefully, is about influence. Jason nods. Influence exists everywhere. Music, news, social media. He glances around the table. This show. The audience reacts louder now, some cheers, some sharp intakes of breath. A producer's voice whispers urgently off camera, unheard by viewers but felt in the sudden tightening of the host's movements. Whoopi straightens. So let me ask you this directly, she says. Do you believe entertainers have a responsibility beyond entertainment? Jason answers without hesitation. Yes. A beat. The audience leans forward. Our responsibility, he continues, is honesty. To the story. To the craft. Not to shaping morality by committee. Whoopi nods slowly, absorbing it. And what about accountability? Jason's eyes soften, just slightly. Accountability is personal, he says. It's not imposed in a studio under lights. The silence stretches. This isn't a shouting match. It's something sharper, a clash of philosophies, each unwilling to bend. Joy tries again to lighten the mood. Well, I for one wouldn't want to run into you in a dark alley, she jokes weakly. A few laughs break out, but they're nervous. Jason smiles politely, but his gaze flicks back to Whoopi, who hasn't laughed. Humor aside, Whoopi says, "People look up to you." Jason nods. "And that's why I take my work seriously." "By punching first?" she asks. "By showing consequences," he replies. "Pain, loss, sacrifice. My characters don't walk away unscathed." Whoopi exhales. Some viewers don't see that part. Jason leans forward again, voice firmer now. "Then maybe the conversation should be about media literacy," he says, "not blaming storytellers." That lands hard. The audience erupts, this time louder, more divided. Applause clashes with murmurs of dissent. The hosts exchange glances. This has gone far beyond the planned segment. Whoopi raises her hand, commanding the room. "All right," she says. "Let's pause for a moment." But even as she speaks, it's clear, this isn't a pause. It's the deep breath before something bigger. Jason sits back, hands clasped, eyes steady. He's not backing down. Neither is she. As the cameras keep rolling and producers debate cutting to commercial, one truth becomes undeniable. This isn't about movies anymore. It's about who gets to define responsibility, influence, and power in the modern spotlight. And the real confrontation? It's still ahead. The commercial break ends, but the energy doesn't reset. If anything, it sharpens. When the cameras fade back in, the applause feels forced, like a formality everyone knows is hollow. The audience is restless now, leaning forward, sensing they're about to witness something that won't be replayed lightly or forgotten. Jason Statham adjusts his seat, rolling his shoulders once, a fighter's habit. Whoopi Goldberg sits upright, composed, but there's a new intensity in her eyes. This is no longer an abstract discussion. It's personal now, even if neither of them has said so out loud. Whoopi speaks first. "During the break," she says, looking directly at Jason, "we talked about responsibility. I want to take that further." Jason nods. "Go on. You're not just an actor," she continues. "You're a brand. Studios sell your image. Tough. Unbreakable. Silent strength. That image lands differently depending on who's watching." Jason's jaw tightens. "I don't control how studios market films. But you benefit from it," Whoopi says immediately. The audience reacts, soft ooze, a few claps. Jason exhales, slow and deliberate. "I benefit from people choosing to buy tickets," he replies. "That choice belongs to them." Whoopi leans forward. Choice isn't made in a vacuum. Jason's eyes narrow slightly, not in anger, but in focus. Neither is blame. That exchange hits like a punch. Sunny looks down at her notes, then back up, clearly aware the conversation has crossed into dangerous territory. "Jason," Sunny says, "what would you say to parents who worry their kids are absorbing the wrong lessons from action heroes?" Jason doesn't answer right away. When he does, his voice is quieter, more grounded. "I'd say talk to your kids," he says. "Explain the difference between fiction and life. Don't outsource that job to an actor you've never met." The audience applauds, louder this time. Whoopi waits for it to die down, then speaks with measured precision. "That sounds reasonable," she says. "But not every household has the tools or time for those conversations." Jason nods once. "And that's tragic. Truly. But again, why is that burden placed here?" He gestures lightly to himself. "On one performer." Whoopi's expression hardens. "Because visibility comes with weight." Jason leans forward, elbows on the table now. "Then let's talk about all visibility," he says. "Not just the kind that sells tickets." The implication hangs heavy. A few audience members gasp. Joy Behar's eyes widen. "Are you suggesting?" Whoopi begins. "I'm suggesting," Jason interrupts, calm but unyielding, "that influence isn't exclusive to action films. Words shape people too. Narratives repeated daily shape people." The studio goes silent. This is the line no guest is supposed to cross. The hosts are the questioners, not the subjects. Whoopi stares at him for a long moment. "Are you saying we're responsible for harm?" Jason doesn't flinch. "I'm saying responsibility doesn't stop where it's convenient." A sharp intake of breath ripples through the crowd. Someone claps, then another, until a wave of applause rolls through half the studio, while the other half sits frozen. Sunny interjects quickly. Okay, she says, attempting to regain control. Let's keep this constructive. Whoopi raises a hand, stopping her. No, she says. Let him finish. All eyes return to Jason. I grew up rough, he says suddenly, voice dropping. The shift catches everyone off guard. No safety nets. No mentors lining up to guide me. Movies didn't make me violent. They gave me an outlet. A dream. The audience quiets completely now. What made a difference, he continues, were real people. Coaches. Friends. Discipline. Accountability in the real world. Whoopi listens, her expression unreadable. So when I'm told my work is dangerous, Jason says, it feels like erasing all that. Reducing complex lives to a convenient headline. The words hang heavy. Even the cameras seem to pause. Whoopi exhales slowly. I hear you, she says. But hearing you doesn't mean I agree. Jason nods. I wouldn't expect you to. Joy jumps in, voice gentle now. Do you ever worry, though, that some fans don't separate you from your characters? Jason allows a small, sad smile. All the time, he admits. That's the price of visibility. Whoopi tilts her head. And yet you keep making the films. Yes, Jason says firmly. Because stories matter. Even uncomfortable ones. The audience murmurs in agreement and disagreement. The divide is clear now, visible, undeniable. Whoopi leans back, folding her hands. You know, she says slowly, this is why conversations like this are necessary. Because we don't live in absolutes. Jason meets her gaze. On that, he says, we agree. For the first time since the confrontation began, something shifts. Not resolution, but recognition. Two people acknowledging they're standing on opposite sides of a complicated truth. The producer's countdown flashes. Time is running out. The segment is supposed to end, but no one wants it to. Social media feeds are already lighting up. Clips are being cut in real time. Headlines are forming before the final words are spoken. Whoopi glances at the camera. When we come back, she says, we'll wrap this up. Jason sits back, expression calm but eyes intense. He knows what's coming. Whatever happens next won't stay in this room. The fallout is inevitable, and it's about to explode. When the cameras return for the final minutes, the studio feels altered, like a room after a storm has passed through, quiet, charged, rearranged. The applause is hesitant, scattered, unsure whether clapping is appropriate at all. Jason Statham sits composed, hands folded, eyes forward. Whoopi Goldberg takes a breath, long and deliberate, the kind you take when you know every word will be replayed, dissected, judged. We're almost out of time, Whoopi says, her voice steady but weighted. And I want to end this responsibly. Jason nods. So do I. Whoopi turns slightly toward him. You challenge the idea of who carries influence today. That's not nothing. Jason meets her gaze. Neither is the conversation you started. A beat passes. The audience senses this is the closing chapter, not just of a segment, but of a moment that will live far beyond this studio. I don't think you're a villain, Whoopi says plainly. Jason's expression softens, just a fraction. I never thought you did. But I do think, she continues, that power deserves scrutiny. Jason nods again. And I think scrutiny should be shared. The audience exhales collectively, as if holding its breath this entire time. Some applaud. Not loud. Not divided. Just human. Whoopi turns to the camera. This is why we talk, she says. Not to win, but to understand. Jason adds quietly, even when it's uncomfortable. The cameras pull back. The music rises. The red light goes dark. But the moment doesn't end. The second the broadcast cuts, the studio erupts, not in chaos, but in noise. Voices overlap. Audience members stand, some applauding Jason, others surrounding Whoopi with nods of agreement. Phones are already out. Clips are being uploaded. Captions written in real time. Backstage, producers whisper urgently. One shakes their head, half in disbelief, half in awe. That wasn't supposed to happen, someone mutters. Another replies, that's exactly why it matters. Jason stands, thanks the hosts politely. Whoopi rises too. For a brief second, off camera, they shake hands. It's firm, respectful, not friendly, not hostile, real. Within minutes, social media detonates. Jason Statham shuts down the view, trends alongside Whoopi Goldberg stands her ground. Clips fracture the conversation into sound bites. One side hails Jason as fearless, finally saying what others won't. The other praises Whoopi for holding power accountable, refusing to be intimidated by celebrity. Hashtags multiply. Think pieces appear before the hour ends. Some accuse Jason of deflecting responsibility. Others accuse the show of ambushing a guest. Influencers pause reaction videos mid-sentence, eyes wide, replaying the same exchange over and over. Media outlets scramble. Headlines sharpen the edges. Tense showdown, on-air clash, talk show turns battleground. Context is lost, then fought over. Jason's name trends globally. Whoopi's words are quoted, requoted, reframed. By nightfall, actors, journalists, and fans weigh in. Some call it the most honest exchange they've seen on daytime television. Others say lines were crossed. Debate spills into comment sections, group chats, dinner tables. And that's the point, because what happened wasn't about action movies or talk shows anymore. It was about who gets to define influence, who carries responsibility, who gets questioned, and who does the questioning. Jason releases a short statement hours later. Calm. Measured. I appreciate the conversation. Disagreement doesn't mean disrespect. Whoopi addresses it the next day. If we can't challenge each other openly, we're not doing our jobs. The audience is still talking. Days later, weeks later, clips resurface. Opinions harden. Minds shift. And somewhere in all that noise, a truth settles in. Not every confrontation ends with a winner. Some end with a mirror. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Was Jason Statham right to push back? Or did Whoopi Goldberg ask the questions that needed to be asked? Drop your opinion in the comments, because this conversation doesn't end here. If this story pulled you into the moment, if you felt the tension, the clash, the aftermath, subscribe to The Truth Narrator right now for more explosive, cinematic stories that go beyond the headlines. Share this video, join the discussion, and stay with us, because the truth is never as simple as it seems.